Hi, I'm Nuan Gebelanage, and today we are going to discuss CI/CD for SQL databases using Azure Devops. Now there are a couple of subtle differences between the traditional approach and the CI/CD approach, but I'm sure once you get used to the CI/CD approach, you're going to love it. It's so easy to code, collaborate, build, test, and deploy. You can add approvers in the middle. You may already have a database that is deployed, or you might be planning to build a new database. This approach is going to help either way. So the first step here is to plan. You identify how you want to structure the data, your schema design and everything. And then you start code using Visual Studio. And then you collaborate it using Azure repos, and you can automate your build. Now on the build, what's going to happen is the code that is available in your code repository is going to be built into a DAC pack. If you look at the DAC pack file, you can just download it and unzip it, and then you will have the schema as scripts. Once you have that DAC pack, which is an artifact, then you can start testing. Now the testing process can be automated. You can use different tools like tsqlt or Pester, or you can simply test the way you normally test. Then you can let the approvers decide whether you want to go ahead with the deployment or not. Once they approve, you can go for the deployment and push it into your database. The database here can be an Azure SQL DB, or it could be an on-premise database. Now, if you are using an on-premise database, you may have to do a little bit of additional support where you need to install an agent. In order for you to deploy the agent, you can use the deployment groups. It will generate you a PowerShell script, and you simply need to run the PowerShell script in your target deployment environment. And then the cycle continues. You plan, code, collaborate, you automate your build, that will generate your artifact, you test it, approve it, automate your deployment, and push it back into your database. The main thing here is it's got to be repeatable. Now we are done with the theory. Let's go down to our DevOps portal and see how it works in real life. Before we get started, there are a couple of things that we need to set up. One is the Azure DevOps project. If you haven't got an Azure DevOps account, go into dev.azure.com, and from there you'll be able to create your organization, and then you can create as many projects as you want. It's fairly easy, so I'm not going to spend time on creating the organization. I'm going to create a new project. We'll call it DevOps Demo. There's a couple of options that we need to get here. The version control version, we are going to select it as Git, and the work item process, we are going to select basic. If you have an agile project, you can easily select agile and then link it up with your task boards and so on. But for the purpose of this demo, we are just going to stick to Git and basic. So the project is created. It's an empty project. As of now, we don't have any content in our repo. We don't have any pipelines. We don't have any artifacts. So the next thing that we need to do is create a Visual Studio project. Create a new project, and we are going to select SQL database project. Next, we'll call the project PRJ DevOps Demo and the solution as SLN DevOps Demo. Click Create. So I've got my solution and the project. It's an empty project. I have also created a database server and a database. Log into this database server. And you can see I have got one database with no tables and no views. Let me create a table and a view. Now we'll create a new view. So we've got the table and the view available in our database. Now I go into my Visual Studio project, and I'm going to import the database. Select connection. I've already got my credentials supplied here. Now I'm going to start importing the database schema. We have now completed the import of our schema, and it has imported the DBO schema, table and the views. Please note that this is just bringing in the schema, it won't bring in your data. The next thing that we need to do is to push our solution into source control repository. Before we do that, we need to understand that there are two source control repositories involved here. One is a local Git repository, the other one is a cloud Git repository. So we go into our solution and say add solution to source control. Yes, we need to save it. So it says a new Git repository has been created in this particular drive, and it shows that now they are in source control. Next thing that we are going to do is add another column into our products table. So let's say product description. Save. And go to source control and click commit. And add a commit comment. We can say commit and push. Now when we say push, it is trying to push this change into our cloud repository. So we need to select our cloud repository. So we can say we need to push it into Azure Devops, and it selects my organization and the repository name. Before we do that, let's select our project. So it's going to be inside the DevOps demo, and if we go back into Azure DevOps, here you can see there's already a repo named DevOps demo. If we want, we can push our code in here by just giving the name of this repo, or we can create a new one. So select my correct project, publish it into the repository. You have the option to go and see it in the web, or you can simply go back into our DevOps repository, and there we go. So under our project, the DBO schema, table and the view is available. So we have completed our source control process. Now we need to go for the automated build and then create our DAC file as an artifact. In order for us to do it, we need to create a pipeline. We don't have any pipelines at the moment, so we are going to create a new pipeline. And there are some standard templates available. YAML is the most common language for you to create a pipeline, but in order for us to keep it simple, we are going to use the classic editor. Select Azure Repos. This is my project, this is my repository, and this is my branch. And there are loads of templates available for you to do this build, or you can create it as an empty job, or you can build it from a template. So I'm going to use a template this time, and there are a few bits that I really don't need. So I need to build my solution, and I'm happy with the default settings here. I am not going to use the test capability at the moment, and then I'm going to remove this as well, and that would do. But before we do that, we need to go back into our project and then go into project properties. Make sure our target platform is Azure SQL database. Save it. And commit. Commit and push. So It's all done. And here we save and queue. So it has created an agent job. So the job completes in 1 minute. Now I go into my database and I'm going to check whether my column has come through. No, we don't have the column. That is because we have just built the artifact. We haven't done the deployment yet. In between the build and deployment, there is a testing phase. For the moment, we are going to ignore that. So in order for us to deploy it, we need to go to the release pipelines. We create a new pipeline. And we are going to use an empty job. And the current stage, we can call it dev. We save it. We are happy to save it in the root folder. So we select an artifact that we have already built. And we are going to add that. Now, in order for us to build it, there's a bit of a setup that we need to do. On the agent job, we need to find deployment task. So you have the Azure SQL database deployment task. And here we need to provide some information. So select your subscription first and authorize it. Then you need to select your SQL server name, database name, login name and password. I can simply type them in here, or if you want to reuse them, we can use the variables. We have to add the SQL server name and then SQL DB name. And here we'll assign it to dev scope. Username. And password. We can mask the password so that the secrets can stay secret. We go back to our task and we pass those variables that we created. So in here we have to be really careful. The text is case sensitive. And finally, you need to select the DACPack file. So this is the DACPack file that we created through our build operation. So I think we are happy with this. We can call it CD pipeline. Save it. Go inside the releases. So we have created the CD pipeline. Now we need to create a release using that pipeline. There we go. We've got the release one set up here and it's queued. Meaning starting in a bit. Check the logs. Yeah, so in 2 minutes and 22 seconds it has completed the job. We go back to our database, check the columns. There we go, we've got the product description. Now, we have got the build pipeline ready and the release pipeline. But one thing that we haven't done is to automate this. So in order for us to automate this pipeline, we go here and then go into the build pipeline, edit, and here we've got the triggers. We can enable continuous integration, and we can say include this particular master branch, or you can add more filters suggesting that we want more branches. I'm going to stick to the master branch for the moment. We save and here. Okay. And then we go into our releases, edit the release pipeline. From here we can enable the continuous deployment, and then we can say build it, enable the continuous deployment, and we can also add some pre-deployment conditions. Say for an example, you want to authorize your deployment to development, so we can enable pre-deployment approvals, and you need to select who's going to approve it. Save it, and that's all done. We go back into our Visual Studio. We're going to edit the current view. As you see here, it says select all from products. There is a nice little trick here where we can say expand wildcards, and it provides you with column names. I'm going to do another change here. I'm going to get rid of the product ID from this view. Save it. And we are going to push it to the source control repository. Commit and push. Go into our pipelines and you see that it has just started a new build. This time it has started the build without our intervention. As you see here, the build is complete. It has taken 1.5 minutes. Go into releases. It has started the release. Hover over dev and it's saying there's an approval pending for me. Go into the approval. I can approve it within the next 30 days, or I can reassign this approval to someone else. Give it a comment. We can go into view the logs. There we go. The job has succeeded. Release completed. We go into our database. Refresh my views. Columns. We have 2 column names. Look at the view definition. It has expanded the wildcards and it's got rid of the product ID. Now that's the simple pipeline where the build and release got automated through just checking in. We can take it another step further. We go into our releases. And we can add another step for our UAT environment. So we can clone our existing step, and it has got all the configuration that's available. We're going to name it UAT and go into the variables. So on the SQL database name here, you can see it has got the scope as UAT. So I can simply change my SQL DB name to ICUAT. Save it. Add UAT. Go back to my pipeline, and here we go. We've now got 2 stages in my deployment pipeline. Go in here, Solution Explorer, and I want to have the ID back in. Save. commit and push. Back into my pipelines, started the build. So it has completed the build. Going to releases. It's in dev stage, waiting for my approval. Approve it. Approving without comments. That's really good. It has completed the dev stage. Now it has moved into the UAT stage and it's waiting for my approval as well. So in this scenario, you can get the testers to approve it, or anyone who is a stakeholder at pushing it into this level. Approve it. Go into the UAT stage. So in here, it's attempting to create a database and the deployment has succeeded. Go into my database server, refresh it, and I have the UAT database. Now this is not a recommended practice. If you want to deploy databases, there's ARM templates that you can make use of so that you can script out your database deployment. But I just showed it to you to show the power of this deployment tool. If I go into my Azure portal, in the resource group I created, we have the UAT server. And it is picking up the default configuration that's available. So we have now been able to start from coding, pushing it into a repository, automating the build, building the artifacts. We have skipped the testing part, automating the deployments and pushing it into the databases. You can continue this cycle as much as you want. We've done all these activities in an Azure environment. How can we bring it down to our on-premise SQL servers? So the short answer is use deployment groups. So you can create a new deployment group, name it on-premise. You can select use personal access token and then copy this script into your clipboard and run it in PowerShell of the server where you want to deploy it to. Then you need to go to your Visual Studio project. On the project properties, change your deployment target platform to the correct platform. And then if we want to create a new release, start with an empty job. We need to add our current build. We'll call it on-premise. And in here, you need to specify add deployment group job. You need to select your deployment group, and that would suffice. Then you add SQL Server database deploy. In fact, we need to have the deployment job earlier. You specify your DACPAT file. Specify the database name, authentication method, and save it. And that would take you to your deployment. I am not going to push it into a on-premise database. I will create a separate video to show you how we can deploy it onto an on-premise database. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.